Now, the biggest personal concern I would have with this 3.5 liter EcoBoost, and I hear it a ton from you guys as well, is the question of reliability with this twin turbo V6. What is going on today, guys? My name's Alex. Welcome back to the channel. Today we are doing our part 3 of our little mini series with this 2023 F150 with the 3.5 liter EcoBoost in it. So far, part 1 and part 2 have all been sunshine and rainbows, but not anymore. Today, we are going in on the dark side of this 3.5 liter EcoBoost. We're gonna talk about some issues, some known problems, and I'm gonna tell you guys as a heavy duty mechanic, some things that I don't personally like about this engine and that I think you guys should be aware of if you're looking at buying one. So that's what we're doing today. And we're gonna start with the most common issue, in my opinion, the cam phaser problems with this 3.5 liter EcoBoost engine. So with this engine being a dual overhead cam setup, that means you have 4 camshafts as well as 4 camshaft phasers. And what those do is they advance and retard the timing of the engine to give you a more advantageous driving condition depending on your driving condition. So for example, if you're just driving down the highway and you want more fuel economy, the cam phasers can change that. If you are on the throttle, towing heavy, going up a big hill, cam phasers can advance your timing to give you more power out of the engine. So that is the base premise of the cam phasers. And it is a cool bit of technology, but it has also been a very sore spot for these engines here. Now, despite this engine debuting in 2011 and going through different generations, well, I guess there's only 2, but several updates through its life here, and in 2023 these cam phasers are still considered to be a possible issue, which is unfortunate. And the telltale sign of having a cam phaser issue is having a very noisy, tacky, knocky startup for a couple of seconds. That's usually a telltale sign of a cam phaser has failed. Now, these cam phasers are controlled by engine oil pressure, and internally there is a rotor, and that rotor is used to either retard or advance the timing based upon, again, engine oil pressure. And what happens is when these engines sit for a couple hours, the engine oil and the pressure drains out of them, and on startup, there's supposed to be a locking mechanism that'll lock the rotor in place so you don't get that slapping noise. And what's happening is that locking pin seems to be failing, so when you do go to start it up, that rotor is just slapping around, and what happens is the camshaft actually also kind of slaps around, and that's what you get, that really horrible noise, if that makes sense. Now quickly, I just wanted to touch on this. Unlike my previous assumption, it does seem like as of 2021, good old Ford here, it seems like they have solved this issue with an updated cam phaser, at least with a new part number, but you know, this isn't the first time Ford has done this, but apparently it does seem like this is actually a true fix. So that's good news. So anyone looking to buy a new truck or a truck 2021 and above, the odds of you having a cam phaser issue seems very unlikely. At least that's what the interwebs tells me, and it never lies. I mean, if you guys actually own one of these trucks or newer trucks, let me know if that seems to be true, if you guys are experiencing any cam phaser issues or not. Always love to hear from you. But the silver lining in some regard is that it's really not too detrimental to the engine other than that nasty startup. The engines still seem to run pretty decently even with a failed cam phaser. Obviously over time that harsh startup with the cam slapping around is going to create wear, and is probably going to wear items much faster than if the cam phaser was working properly. Now, my parts guy Scott, which I've mentioned in the past videos in this series, he has a 2014 EcoBoost and quite likes it, but he bought it brand new, and his cam phaser, one of the cam phasers, failed at about 60,000 kilometers. And actually, well, Scott works right there in the drive-through window, giving us boys parts. So he went in to the dealership and they quoted him a couple of years back about $6,000 to do the job. So it is quite a large repair to get that replaced. Again, good news is His truck now has over 350,000 kilometers with that failed cam phaser still in it. And he says the truck keeps on rocking other than that really harsh startup noise that happens every now and again. But in terms of ways of how to prevent a possible cam phaser failure, it seems like it's almost luck of the draw. I mean, my one recommendation, since the thing does run on oil pressure, is to make sure that you are changing your oil regularly and putting the best high quality oil in your engine that you can to potentially try and minimize any cam phaser failures. I want to thank the official apparel sponsor of the channel, Old North Co. They are a local London, Ontario company founded by two sisters. They have a great selection of outdoor Canadian designs in t-shirts, sweaters, hats. They even have cool stuff for your dogs. If you guys are interested, put a 10% discount code down below, so check them out. Now, the second common issue with these EcoBoost engines involves timing chain issues. Now, thankfully, in 2017, with the second gen EcoBoost, this issue was pretty much resolved. So this issue is really only for the first gen EcoBoost engines. Basically, the timing chain, it would stretch, and it would throw off timing, and you get all kinds of problems. And worst case scenario, your engine eats a valve, and the engine's a complete failure. So timing is very important, and having a timing chain fail is not a good thing. So, well, I guess first of all, a timing chain doesn't actually stretch. What happens is each link actually gets a little wear in it, and so it lengthens is a better way to put it. Now they say, the experts say that the main reason why this timing chain was failing was because Ford only used one timing chain and because of the harsh angles the timing chain was at. So, it's a V, and so your timing chain wraps around your crankshaft, goes up to your camshaft, goes back down to the water pump, back up to the other bank, to that camshaft, and then back down to your crankshaft. So I think the chain was like 9 feet long or something. It was a very long chain, which again is not good in terms of stretch. What Ford did in 2017, they scrapped that original chain and they went with two different timing chains, one for each bank, and that has basically pretty much solved the issue, which is good to see. So if you guys are looking at buying or purchasing a first gen EcoBoost engine, 2011 to 2016, and there's some decent mileage on it and the timing chain has never been done, odds are that is something that is going to have to be done in the future, or something you'll want to do right away just to prevent any timing chain failure issues. So just be aware that is something that is very much an issue with those first gen issues. The third common issue on these EcoBoost engines comes from turbocharger failure. Now, a part of me does not agree with this because technically a turbocharger is a wearable item and it takes a lot of heat, it takes a lot of pressure. If you guys are planning on buying a 3.5 for a long-term truck, 8 to 10 years worth of use, odds are you're going to be replacing the turbos at some point. That is just the name of the game when it comes to having a turbocharged engine. I've heard a lot of people complain about premature turbo failures, and I mean, potentially there is something there, but I mean, turbos fail all the time. I work on big diesel engines, every single one has a turbo, and it's not uncommon to see a turbo fail. It just happens. These turbos are spooling to incredible RPMs. Like I said, tons of heat, tons of pressure, and it doesn't take much to have a component slightly fail and then bang, the turbo's gone. So it kind of is the dice you gotta roll if you don't want a big gas guzzling naturally aspirated V8 and you want the same power out of a smaller displacement engine. You're gonna have to deal with potentially having turbo failures or replacing your turbos throughout the life of the engine. I mean, you shouldn't expect the turbos to last the life of the engine, is what I'm saying. Now, thankfully, there are a couple ways to try and prevent premature turbo wear or failure. And the number one way I would recommend doing that is to idle down your engine. Now, what does that mean? So, well, when you're driving, your turbos are spooling up, and well, these Borg-Warner turbos can spool up to 170,000 RPM. So these things are spinning extremely fast. And that's fine because when your engine's on, oil is being supplied, coolant is being supplied to that turbo, keeping it all good and dandy. But what happens is you whip into your driveway, you turn the truck off, and the turbine shaft in the turbo is still spinning extremely fast. Only problem is the engine's off and now there's no oil supply to that turbine. And so that is where you can get some wear. Now, doing it once or twice every now and again, it's not gonna do anything. But doing that for years is going to definitely prematurely wear the turbo. So my advice would be whip into your driveway, let the truck idle down for 15, 20 seconds, turn it off. And that way your turbos are spinning at a much lower rate, and when you turn your engine off, it's not going to create as much wear. The second thing you can probably do is to not necessarily spool up those turbos when the engine oil is cold again. Engine oil is what lubricates the turbine shaft there, and when the oil is cold, you're not gonna have as good lubrication, especially when they're spinning at 170,000 RPM. So let the engine try and warm up a little bit, drive it nice and comfortably before you really just mash on the throttle and spin those turbos up. That would probably be a good thing to try and prevent premature turbo failure. Another known engine issue with these 3.5 liter EcoBoost is leaking oil pans. Now, that alone is not necessarily a catastrophic failure. It's more just annoying having oil drip everywhere, as well as potentially having to fill up your oil every now and again so you don't run dry. That is the main issue. But the bigger issue, I guess, if you will, is that apparently now the oil gaskets and oil pans are back ordered pretty significantly, so you can't even get parts for it anymore. The main issue stems, I believe, from the years 2015 to 2018, when Ford had a plastic oil pan on their EcoBoost. This also involves the 2.7 liter. And I guess for whatever reason, they just don't seal very well. And there's rumors of people going to get their oil pans and oil gaskets replaced, multiple times, and it's still leaking. So if you are looking at EcoBoost around those years with those plastic oil pans, just be aware that you are probably at some point in the life of the engine going to experience an oil pan gasket oil leak. The fifth issue that kind of caught my eye was premature ignition failure or spark plug failure. So spark plugs on this engine tend to fail much sooner than a naturally aspirated V8 or spark plugs on, let's say, the 5 liter. And it's not like these spark plugs are bad. It's not like there's actually a failure. It's just kind of what comes with the territory. Once again, these spark plugs, while having direct injection as well as being turbocharged, they just deal with a lot of heat, a lot of pressure, and they are gonna fail much sooner than a naturally aspirated V8 would. So you're probably gonna get double the spark plug life in a normal naturally aspirated engine versus this engine here. So again, something to just be aware of. Now, alongside those 5 issues that I think are probably the forefront of this engine, there's stuff like oil pan leaking and some coolant leaks, coolant hoses known to leak. So there are some smaller things that if you really want to take a dive or you're really curious and you really want to buy this and you want to know the issues, there are some more. But in terms of issues that really would concern me, those 5 are the ones that really kind of caught my eye, and I think you guys should be aware of. I guess it is time for a conclusion, and well, I mean, it's tough because personally, if I was going to buy an F150, I would still buy the 5 liter V8. Maybe because I'm old school, but as a mechanic, to me, the simplicity, I shouldn't say that. The 5 liter is not a simple engine, but it is definitely less complicated than this engine, if that makes sense. And to me, simplicity, for the most part, equals reliability. And I think that 5 liter, in the long run, it has a better chance of being a more reliable, long-lasting engine. And I always look at buying a pickup truck in terms of me buying it for life. Running that engine until it doesn't run anymore. That's how I look at buying pickup trucks. If you guys are just looking to lease a truck, this thing is wonderful. It's a wonderful, wonderful truck to lease. Now, if you're looking to own an EcoBoost, I mean, it's still a great engine. There's so many examples out there of people just loving these engines with having almost no issues. So that's just my personal opinion, I guess. In terms of the engine itself, I was actually really, really impressed. The towing blew me out of the frickin' water. I knew it was a good towing engine, but I wasn't aware how good it was going to be. And we didn't even have the high gearing. We only had 331 gears in this truck. So I can only imagine with 373 gears, how good of a towing machine this would actually be. And even, you know, driving this thing unloaded, it is lightning fast. It is crazy fast. I thought my 5.7 HEMI, my Ram 1500 was a quick truck. This thing would blow the doors off that Ram 1500. I'm sorry, but it is true. It is a quick truck. So all in all, I think it is a really good engine, but if I had to pick between the 5 liter and the 3.5 turbocharged engine, I would pick the 5 liter. Let me know what you think. Tell me if you think I'm wrong. Anyways, I really hope you guys enjoyed this little mini series here. I personally get a big kick out of doing this. I love dealing with new trucks, towing with them, and all that fun stuff. So I had fun. Hopefully you guys had fun, and I can't wait till the next one, and we'll go from there. Anyways, if you did like the video, don't forget to leave that thumbs up. And if you like cool stuff like this, don't forget to subscribe because, well, we got lots of stuff planned. Anyways, enough of me. We will see you guys on the next video.